We left off in the last video with Carthage attempting to pay back Rome for the war expenses that they owed, and Rome refusing that payment in order to keep Carthage under their control. This left Carthage with a surplus of money, which they used to rebuild and strengthen their city. In 153 BCE, a Roman delegation was called to Carthage to investigate a complaint. Roman officials came to Carthage often to make sure things weren't getting out of hand. There was a Roman senator in this group of officials called Cato the Elder, uncle of Cato the Younger. When he arrived to Carthage, he expected to see a city in ruins, but instead he found Carthage a prosperous city in wonderful condition, vibrant and full of life, even better than Rome. This made Cato fear that Carthage would be able to rise up again against Rome, so he made a request to Rome to put a plan in place to ensure that this wasn't going to happen. At the end of every one of his Senate speeches, Cato declared, "Carthago delenda est," Carthage must be destroyed. He became obsessed with destroying Carthage, and this became his catchphrase. At first, when he went on and on about the dangers of Carthage to the Roman state, they were not convinced that Carthage was a threat. They thought Cato must have been exaggerating. However, people in Rome started listening to him eventually. In the year 151 BCE, Carthage was in another war with Numidia. Numidia was laying siege to a small town near Carthage. Carthage knew that they could not call on Rome for help, as Rome would have ignored their calls. The new leaders in Carthage decided to stand up for themselves, even though it would mean going against their agreement with Rome and creating their own army. Around 25,000 soldiers helped push the Numidians out of Carthage, at least for the time being. However, a Roman soldier happened to witness that battle. That soldier was named Publius Cornelius Aemilianus Africanus Numantius. He was the grandson of Scipio Africanus. When he found out that Carthage had an offensive army, he took that information back to Rome. Once Cato found out about this, he now had proof of Carthage's restoration. In 149 BCE, Rome decided that they could not risk Carthage rising in power, and they declared war on Carthage. They began by going to a town near Carthage called Utica, with 80,000 infantry and 4,000 cavalry. All those soldiers were sent to intimidate Carthage. The Romans wanted to push Carthage into fighting them. However, Carthage remained firm in their stance, as they knew that they would be defeated if they tried to fight the Romans. The Romans got tired of this, so in 148 BCE they took it to the next level. A notice was sent out to all Carthaginians saying that every person needed to leave the city so that Rome could burn it down. Now, the Carthaginians had a very big dilemma. They knew that even if they did leave, they would never be free of the Romans, as they would just keep coming back. Carthage had had enough. It was the last straw. They decided to stay. Rome prepared to lay siege to Carthage, but they didn't do it right away. In 147 BCE, a plague infected the Roman army. They were in pretty bad shape, needed reinforcements, and needed a new general. The general who was chosen was Scipio Aemilianus. Scipio knew that because Carthage was so large and so self-sufficient, it would take years for them to feel the effects of a siege. He also knew that the Romans would be fighting civilians, and understood the human consequences of that. However, he determined that there would be no other way to destroy Carthage than to have a final battle. In 146 BCE, the Romans launched their final assault on Carthage. First, the Roman army attacked the city walls. Then they destroyed the Carthaginian citadel, which was the most important building in the city. After this, there was a complete systematic destruction of Carthage. The Romans went through the city, street by street, killing every person they saw. There was immense fighting, fires, and tragic, painful violence. Before this final battle, Carthage had a population of around 700,000 people. The Battle of Carthage took 6 days, and after those 6 days, Carthage was left with about 50,000 people. The remaining Carthaginians were sold into slavery. This completely destroyed the once thriving city of Carthage. When Scipio realized what he had caused, he openly wept in front of his soldiers. He had always known that his decision would lead to so many deaths and so much destruction. He was not cold about it. The defeat of Carthage, in part, allowed Rome to expand without competition throughout the Mediterranean. Rome was then able to have influence in other places, such as Spain and France, ultimately leading to the creation of the Romance languages. Referencing Cunctator in the Punic Wars, the Roman Ennius once said, "Unus homo nobis cunctando restituit rem." One man, by delaying, restored the Republic to us.